As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. Remember the Game is brought to you by my website, abcomedy.net. As you may or may not know, I'm a comedian by night. And as much as I love talking about old video games, telling jokes is how I actually pay my bills. So please check out my website. In addition to old episodes of this podcast, you'll find my blog, videos of my stand-up, all of my upcoming shows, and my contact information. If you need a comedian for your next fundraiser, corporate event, house party, whatever you got going on, hit me up. Again, it's abcomedy.net. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe to it. Please leave us a good review. And most importantly, please tell a friend. I'd really appreciate it. There'll be a new episode every single Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for the support. I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game, my retro gaming podcast, where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and geek out about a game from back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. Episode 35. I am so fucking excited. We are talking Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I know it's known as Punch-Out later because of the whole Mike Tyson thing. We'll get into that, blah, 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 blah. This game rocks. This is not only one of the most iconic titles in the NES's library, it's one of the most iconic titles of the entire, I would say, not only of the 80s, but maybe just of retro gaming. You know, everyone has played or heard of Punch-Out. Next to nobody has beaten Mike Tyson, or Mr. Dream, as he is known, post Mike Tyson's Punch-Out era. This game's incredible. We'll get more into this in a second. I'm so fired up. I've been listening to the music, trying to figure out what order to put the tracks in for this song or for this podcast, and just feeling good. You guys, that said, as well as I am feeling, I'm also feeling a little bit sick. I've had a little bit of a throat thing the last week or so. So I think my voice is probably going to sound no less or no more annoying than normal. But if it does crack, if I do seem a little off, I'm just getting off a bit of a cold. So bear with me. It's been a long week for me. There's been some shit going on in my personal life as far as comedy goes. In case you skip over the intro that plays at the beginning of this podcast every week, I'm a stand-up comic, and there's just been some stuff going on, and I'm not going to get into that. That's not what this podcast is for. What I actually wanted to get to is that this podcast serves, along with gaming, as my ultimate escape. This is what I do to get away from bills, from my job, I guess if you want to call comedy that, from just day-to-day life, either playing games, reading about games, or now talking about games. This is an absolute passion project for me. There's no money involved. Other than the money I have to spend to put it out. I just love doing it. And so I'm really excited for this week's episode. And I just want to, I know I say it every week, but thank you guys so much for the support and for listening. We're at 35 episodes. We're not slowing down. I have some great ideas coming up. And I'm just so grateful for everyone that listens and kind of gives me a way to just sit around and nerd out about my video games for a little while every week. So thank you guys all very, very much. Quickly, the plugs. If you haven't been there yet, we have a website, rememberthegamepodcast.com. There's blogs there. There's all of our previous posts. You can find everything there. Please check it out. If you're on Facebook, you can find us at Remember the Game. And if you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at Member the Game, like remember, but without the RE at the front. We follow back everyone that follows us. We really appreciate it if you threw us a follow or a like or a retweet or fucking whatever there. That'd be really, really cool. That's all the plugs for that. I got some great feedback on last week's episode, the WWF Attitude episode, number 34. If you haven't checked it out, it's there. It's on the website. Go find it, please. I'm glad that people are enjoying the wrestling game episodes. I wasn't sure. I know it's kind of a niche market. I wasn't sure how much love they would get, but you guys seem to be enjoying them, which is rad. So thank you. There are more coming because I have played a lot of fucking wrestling games in my time. So if you don't like them, still download them. That'd be cool. Then just delete them, you know. But I'm glad that everyone is enjoying them as much as I am. I'm glad so many people have such great memories of playing wrestling games as kids, like I do. Just wrestling is the best. Well, at least it used to be. WWE kind of sucks now. This isn't wrestling. We'll get to that later. So like I said, off the top this week, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. If you don't know the story, I cannot imagine there's a single person listening to this podcast that doesn't know the story. And I do believe David and I actually talk about it in the podcast as well. We recorded this one a few weeks ago, so I can't remember everything we talked about. Just quickly to sum it up, Mike Tyson signed on to be part of this the podcast, to be part of the game, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. He's the final boss. If you want to call him that, he's the toughest opponent in the game. After a few years, the licensing agreement expired, and so they didn't want to take the game off the shelf. It was obviously selling and doing well, so they re-released it as just Punch-Out, featuring Mr. Dream, who's basically just a ripoff of Mike Tyson. He fights just like Mike Tyson, I believe. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'm really good at this. You'd think after 35 fucking episodes, I would be better at this than I am. So the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, those cards are worth a little bit more money today to collectors, those cartridges, as opposed to just the Punch-Out ones, because, you know, they're a little bit harder to come across as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That is for the sake of the podcast, what we're talking about this week, but you literally could take everything we say, with the stuff that, with the exception of the stuff that applies to Mike Tyson outside of the game, and just apply it to Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream. This game spawned a couple of sequels. There's Super Punch-Out on the Super Nintendo, and then they released a Punch-Out game for the Wii a few years ago. I never really got into the Wii one. I love Super Punch-Out. I actually consider that my favorite game in the series. There is an episode coming on that game. I just don't know when, but we're talking that game. This is one that started it all, and for my money, this game sits right there with like the original Mario Brothers games as far as standing the test of time. The controls have held up. The gameplay has held up. It's addictive. It's hard, but it's not cheap. Tyson's maybe a little cheap, but it's one of those, like, with practice, you can beat it. I think Nintendo deserves a lot of credit. Everyone involved does, for releasing a game this polished back in 1987, you know, because you can literally pick it up and play it today and know what you're doing in a matter of minutes, and it's fucking perfect. So, other companies tried. My buddy Chris has already mentioned it to me right after I posted the hint for this week's episode. Sega Genesis signed on with Buster Douglas to release a boxing game, which is rad. If you don't know who Buster Douglas is, he beat Mike Tyson, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this guy's the new guy!" And then he got his ass kicked like in his first title defense. It's perfect, just classic Sega that they would just sign on with Buster Douglas. It's the fucking best. This game's been imitated, but it's never been duplicated. This is one of the greatest sports games of all time. It's obviously not the most in-depth. It's not the most simulation-y, but it's incredible. It stood the test of time. It holds up incredibly well. Little Mac is an icon. He's found his way into Smash Brothers now. We need more Punch-Out games, Nintendo. I know you're listening to this, I think. The Switch, as you guys probably know, releases NES games a couple a month. And the best game for my money out of the NES library that is not currently on the Switch is Punch-Out. And we fucking want it, Nintendo. So hook us up. Give us Punch-Out. This has been a very rambly intro, as most of them are. So I am going to get to what I'm playing and then shut the fuck up and get to the podcast with David. As far as what I have been playing over the last week, I'm still hooked, completely hooked on Octopath Traveler on my Switch. Is the JRPG throwback is fucking awesome. I love it. Still playing Tetris 99, which is like a Tetris Battle Royale game that recently released. And like I said, I've been kind of sick the last few days. I was looking for some comfort food. So I fired up Super Mario All-Stars, and I have been playing through Super Mario 2 on it. And I just forgot how much I love that game. I was trying to think of what I would rank the 3 NES Mario games from best to worst, and I don't even think I can. I think I really think I like them all the best. I guess if I had to, it would probably go 2, 3, 1, but they're all just so fucking good. And Super Mario 2 is just everything Zelda 2 isn't. And I know there's some Zelda 2 fans listening to this that are going to get mad. No, fuck you. That game sucks. Mario 2 is weird like Zelda 2 is, but Mario 2 is awesome. And we'll get more. We'll do that. We'll talk about that on its podcast. I'm sure one of those is coming. Good enough. You guys have listened to over 7 minutes of me trying to ramble by myself. My throat kind of hurts. I'm going to shut up. You guys didn't come here to listen to me. You came here to listen to talk about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So I'll be quiet. Cue the music. Kick back. Relax, you guys. Join my pal David Ray and I as we scroll down memory lane and look back at the iconic Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Here we go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. Welcome back to the show, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, yeah.
I'm so excited. Dude, I love every time you come over. And it's like, this is no slight at the other people that come and do this podcast, because I'm sincerely grateful that all of you come over and do this. But you're the NES guy.
Yeah.
And I love NES. And I'm like, most people want to talk Super Nintendo, PlayStation, stuff like that, which is rad, totally.
Oh, yeah. I get that. But I also know that not too many people, especially, like, say, in our circle that we, like, rove in, know the NES games.
No, they're not as old as we are. So I just like every time you and I talk about doing this, you suggest more NES games, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And we're recording 2 episodes today, and I won't even mention the second one yet because I don't know. They probably be going up in order or anything. But the game you and I are about to talk about is one of the ones that I have been excited to do since this whole thing launched a few months ago, and that is. And I'm going to call it by its original. We're going with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the NES. I know it's just Punch-Out now. Just quickly, if you don't know the backstory, Nintendo bought the Mike Tyson likeness, I guess you would say. Like, they paid him to be in the game. And then after a few years, the sponsorship ran out, and instead of renewing it, they just invented a character, Mr. Dream. Yeah. And he felt exact same as Mike Tyson. Yeah. So it really doesn't matter. They're the same game outside of it being Mike Tyson or not Mike Tyson.
That's right, yeah.
And, like, have you ever played, like, the Mike Tyson version? Because, like, I didn't have that as a kid.
I'll be honest, I can't remember which one it was, because at that point when I played it, I wasn't very good, and like
Sure.
I would maybe make it to him once, but I think it might have been like just Punch Out by that point.
Yeah, like I never like I've been playing the Mike Tyson one just because I downloaded the ROM, but I do have like Punch Out is on like the NES Classic and stuff.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same, and it doesn't matter because I'll tell you, dude. I don't know when the last time you played this game is, but I've been playing it the last few days prepping for this, and I can't even get to him anyways. So
Yeah, no, I remember making it to him like once or twice, and it's just like, oh, I'm here, and then you can't.
he murders you. He murders you.
Well, and from what I understand, I was like reading about it after. It's like, how do you fight this guy? A lot of the cues are not even him. You actually have to watch certain audience members because they have the cue. They like a photographer's light bulb goes off, and it's like, oh, this means this big super punch is coming, and like whatever.
Like
Because he doesn't give you any cues. It's stuff around. It's like wild.
dude, like the NES is notoriously difficult,
Yeah.
right? Like I would say 75% of their games are stupid difficult. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's due to limitations and what they could do with the video games at the time, if it's learning, if it was just if you make a game too easy, people will beat it too fast and they'll be angry they paid the $60 or whatever it is for it. I don't know. This game there's nothing cheap about it. There's nothing dirty. It's not.
You can learn it. There's patterns.
That's the genius behind it.
Yeah.
Having said that, Mike Tyson or Mr. Dream, however you want to say, is like probably one of the most difficult bosses in the history of video games.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm so since I started playing it again and I remember how much fun it is, I'm like, I'm going to beat this now. I don't give a fuck how long it takes just because I want to put it on my resume. Like that's a top shelf accomplishment on my resume. You know, if you're listening to this and you've beaten Tyson or Dream and no Game Genie shit, like you've just beaten them straight up, like tip of my hat, because that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, you should have put that in like a comment or a review or whatever. I'd be tight.
Please do. Yeah, if you've beaten it, tell us. And you know what? I know a lot of the people that listen to this show. If you fucking lie, I'll know you're fucking lying. Okay? Because I know half of you, and you never even have gotten to Mike Tyson. Yeah. So shut up. That said, let's talk Tyson's Punch-Out!, man. This game is so good. Did you have it as a kid? Did you own it?
No, it was a friend who had it, but I played it like to the point that I got to Tyson. Not without like strategy guides of like, oh, watch for this or whatever. But as a child, I was able to do it myself to get to the end. And
that's an accomplishment in it. Just getting to him, man.
Yeah.
Because this game, like. Okay, so you already mentioned it, how you're looking for cues and stuff from the fighters. Like, to me, my favorite thing about not just this one, but like the series, you know, like I love Super Punch-Out! As well.
Sure.
I actually like Super Punch-Out! Better, but that's a story for another.
Yeah.
They're both phenomenal.
I never played the sequels, but...
Oh, I never owned this one, but I owned Super Punch-Out! So
there you go.
I was telling one of the guys last night I want to do an episode on I was like, I could talk about that game for... Doesn't matter. We're not talking that. We're talking Punch-Out! One of the things that's so like the sheer like brilliance behind these games is just how in like strategic they are. They're like playing chess. You know what I mean? Like it's boxing, but there's so much and like in the first couple of fights, there's minimal strategy. You know, when you're fighting Glass Joe and those guys, you could pretty well just spam punch and you're going to win.
Yeah,
right.
Glass Joe's to teach you the game.
That's what Glass Joe is. I have a shirt and it's Glass Joe knocked out. And it says Glass Joe Boxing established like 1984, whatever it is. Like I love it. Like Glass Joe's the best.
There's like apparently, if you look at his win-loss record, he has one win.
Yeah, he's 1 in 99.
Yeah, and that one win apparently, according to the comics, was like Little Mac or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering that when I was playing yesterday. I was like, I wonder who he beat.
Yeah.
like how the fuck is he beating someone? He's like. He's the perfect, like Nintendo is great. Like Nintendo games are like well known for their tutorial levels. You know what I mean? Like they're so good at kind of spoon feeding you information. And Glass Joe is perfect. Like he's almost annoying after you've beaten it before because now you're like, okay, let's just fucking go. You know what I mean? But
well, I don't know if you ever saw this, but there's a couple of videos of Mike Tyson playing the game.
I never saw, but I was reading about just this morning. I was reading about Only Gone Fallon or something.
Yeah. So there was one time, like way back in the day when it first came out, and he played and he couldn't beat Glass Joe. And then like later on, I forget who he was on or like what show was doing it, but he was trying again and he finally beat Glass Joe, and that was like
that was his big achievement. Like I didn't even like. Does Glass Joe even throw a punch? I guess he
does.
He does eventually throw a punch.
It's just so telegraphed though. It's like
fucking Tyson. And you know what the best thing about that is who's gonna make fun of him? Like especially back in his prime, who is gonna make like
if he's willing to punch his wife, whatever.
That's it. Like he'll hit anybody.
Punch anybody.
He's. I mean, he seems like he's really turned his life around. He seems like a cool guy now.
Yeah,
but he was a fucking mess in those days. Like it's actually kind of like. So I was reading about it. We'll get back to the gameplay in a second. I was reading about it. Nintendo signed him before he won the heavyweight championship.
Yeah, it was just as he was getting all of this notoriety.
That's bold, man. Because like I remember when I did the Nintendo versus Sega episode of this, I was watching a commercial talking about the Sega and what games are on the Sega Genesis, and I think they have Buster Douglas boxing.
Right.
And
yes.
This isn't a boxing podcast, but if you don't know who Buster Douglas is, he is this guy who, if my memory serves me correct, beat Mike Tyson. He had this crazy upset, and he like in Tyson's prime, he beat him, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And then he got his ass kicked in his next fight, like in his first defense, and just disappeared forever. So it's clearly Sega was like, "Oh well, if Nintendo signed Tyson, we'll get the guy that beat Tyson." And nope, that didn't work. Whereas Tyson, like to this day, that like. I mean, I guess there was probably an era where Nintendo was kind of regretting that sponsorship. Maybe that's why they didn't renew it. I never really read into it because maybe at that point some of his criminal charges were coming up and stuff.
It was probably it's either that or it was just too much money. Like because now he was.
I'm sure he was asking a fortune. Yeah. But either way, I'm sure there was a time in Nintendo's history where they were like, well, that was we don't want to associate with that fucking guy anymore. But I think now it's come back around, and I think now it's cool again. You know what I mean? Like it's
if they did, I don't know. That's an interesting question. We're also like in a different social climate where it's like who knows if it's not so easy to recover from that. Although who knows?
Yeah, I mean that said, I think Nintendo
Nintendo is also very family friendly, so I don't know if they would like
infinitely family friendly.
They're not going to wander into controversy, especially like when Punch-Out now doesn't need Mike Tyson. Like, why would they bring him back?
And that's where I was going to go. And like this, we'll get into this near the end. But so the franchise, like, it's frustrating they haven't done more with this franchise because it's so fun. And they did I know they did the arcade games and stuff like that. But there was Punch-Out on the NES, and there was Super Punch-Out, and the franchise was practically dormant until Punch-Out for the Wii.
Yes, because now they could do
right. Which was a good game. Boxing, yeah. It was a good game. And now there's nothing again. Yep. And it's frustrating because this is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. And Little Mac is in Smash, and that's rad. But I want a new Punch-Out game. You know what I mean?
It would be interesting how they would tackle it, or if they would do many changes. Because I was thinking about this as I was driving over. I'm like, could they make Punch-Out now? Because if you look through even the original lineup, a lot of it's driven by a lot of racial stereotypes.
It's
not that's the guy from Japan is called Piston Honda.
And there's
Hippo.
Yeah, Soda Popinski is clearly a burly Russian who enjoys drinking soda. And it's you're an alcoholic, sir.
Well, did you know that Popinski is what they made for North America? His name was Vodkinski.
I believe that totally. It has to be. But the thing is I think they could still do the franchise now. They just have to maybe drop some of the references.
They could still do stereotypes, but it just couldn't be racial stereotypes.
No,
because they have the hipster.
Yeah,
he has glasses,
that kind of stuff. Yeah,
he'd be the new Glass Joe.
And totally. It'd be like Glass Joe's son or something. That'd be awesome. But they could what I was gonna say is I don't think they. And I think it's not just with this game. I think it's with Nintendo as a whole. They don't need to pay the big money to get that big name.
No.
If you want to call them a sponsor, it's not a sponsor.
License or
whatever. Like the endorsement of that. You know what I mean? They don't need that anymore. No. In the NES days, maybe they did. But now it's Nintendo. You know what I mean? People are gonna buy it because it's Nintendo.
Well, and it's even Punch-Out. I think the name itself.
It's a well enough known name.
And any Nintendo game, game by Nintendo. They put so much care into it that it's
I agree with that. Yeah. And so that's a great segue. If you go back to the original Punch-Out, like the care in that game really is like, even just playing it now, I'm like, this game, I think a lot of NES games have struggled to stand the test of time. Punch-Out has, like, it handles, it's so basic, but it's so deep at the same time, you know?
Well, and it looks great.
It looks gorgeous.
Like for that era, like that was the first time where sprites were like blown up that big, right?
Yeah.
And that was actually like a complication in the making of it because the sprites were so big, but you can distinctly see these characters and you know what they look like, as opposed to even Mario where like they're just kind of like little blocks.
Agreed. Yeah. Like one of the, like, I mean, my primary appeal to Punch-Out is the gameplay, you know, and we'll get into that in a sec, but yeah, like the sprites are really, like the opponent, everyone you fight, like there's no two guys that seem the same, that seem boring. You know what I mean? Like everyone's kind of got a character. They each have their own moves, and they just seem so larger than life. And I think that because they make Little Mac so tiny, right? Yeah. And in the arcade games, I guess Little Mac was kind of like a grid, like he was like see-through apparently. And so in this one,
like they do in Super Punch-Out,
right? Whereas in this one, they like shrunk him because they couldn't do the grid thing, but they wanted you to be able to see who you're fighting. You know what I mean? And like, not only is that a smart way to do it, but like it makes your opponents seem that much cooler because they're so much bigger and larger than life than you. You know, it's legitimately like when you're fighting some of the bigger guys, like a Ball Bull or a King Hippo or something. Like when you're landing uppercuts and the guy's head is going, you know what I mean? Like it's legitimately feels so good. You know, like it's you feel like David versus Goliath. Like
the animation, although basic, it's just like, they have big cartoonish reactions. So like it makes it feel like you're really turning this thing around.
It does, and like, and it really feels like you're landing your punches. And dude, like when you're in one of those harder fights, like near the end, and you knock a guy down, and you land that last punch to knock him down, and then they like do the stumble back, and they like, you feel like a boss, like you really do. You're just like, stay down, motherfucker. And then they, you know, and then you get the odd knockout too. Like you don't get a ton of them, but when you get a knockout, it feels so good. Like it's so intense. Like it really boggles my mind that this game is as old as it is. Yeah, you know, it's almost, I wouldn't say before its time, but it was a pioneer like of that genre. Like it was like boxing has always made great video games. I feel like I've played a lot of boxing video games. I love Knockout Kings, you know, and fuck, what were they called? The Fight Night games. Like there's been lots of great boxing games, but this one is still like as good as any of them to this day. Yeah. You know? It's not as simulation-y as some of like the Fight Nights and stuff.
It's very much like an arcade style game.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like I like going back to that, the way it looks. I think one of the reasons why it stands out in your memory and why it's so fun to play is that reaction. Like it's not just sprites. It's like you see these characters moving, and like like you feel invested, as opposed to, as I said, like even Mario or Mega Man or any of those other ones, which have such a simple death thing because they can't do much with these small sprites. Right. But these big characters can do that.
Yeah, you know? Like it like each guy you fight, each opponent, like legitimately feels like a person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it actually feels like, you're like, I'm really fighting this guy now. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. And I like, it's, okay, so that's on, there's so many little touches. And honestly, like, I've played Super Punch-Out more than this one. Mm-hmm. And as much as I prefer Super Punch-Out, there are aspects of this one that Super Punch-Out didn't have that I prefer. Like, this one's almost a little more simulation-y. And because there's things like the stamina, you know, that doesn't exist in Super Punch-Out.
Right.
Like, and I even playing it over the last couple of days, it took me a couple of fights to remember. Like, so you have these hearts, you have the heart meter. Yeah. And every time you get hit, your heart meter drops. Yeah. And every time you get a punch blocked, the heart meter drops. Yeah. And so if you just spam the punches and just wait, like just hoping that you'll sneak one through your opponent's defense, eventually you'll get gassed. Yeah. And then you can't punch. You turn pink. And your dodging is slow. Yeah. And it's hard. You know what I mean? You're like, it's a big problem.
You have to, there's a strategy to to the whole fight of like, when do I strike? Like,
Right.
don't waste your punches.
Which is like, and this is coming from someone that's like never even really been in a fight. But it is kind of like real boxing. You know what I mean? Like it's like Floyd Mayweather. People can hate on Floyd Mayweather all they want. He's one of the greatest boxers of all time, statistically at least. Anyways, and like his whole thing is wait the guy out, defense. You know what I mean? Things like that. And that's like, especially after the first 2 or 3 fights in this game, you really do realize like it almost becomes a wait for their tell. And that's the genius of it, right? Is you wait for their tell, and like as the game gets further in, their tells get quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yes.
Like Gabby J is the Glass Joe of Super Punch Out.
Right.
Glass Joe will come out, and when he's gonna throw a punch, it literally feels like a 3-second, like he arches his arm back, holds it just to be like, hey, I'm about to throw a punch, and then throws it. You know what I mean? Whereas like playing it over the last couple of days, I couldn't get by Soda Popinski. I could not.
Oh yeah,
I fucking hate him.
He's one of the tough ones.
So I hate him. But like you get a half a second. You know what I mean? Like his eyebrow will like and then he swings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like and with a lot of them, not only do you have to dodge, but you have to dodge a certain way. You can't just use any dodge. You've got to block the right way, or you have to lean the right way. That's the genius of this game. It's a complete chess match. You can't burn out your punches. You got to wait for your openings.
Yep.
And you just have to study your opponent. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. I love that so much. It's not just, you can't just fluke your way through the fights.
Yeah.
You know?
And you can see like how it would take you a long time as a kid, because I can't remember. It's been a little while, but if you lose, do you have to go back to the start of the game?
No, if you lose once, then you get a rematch with that guy. If you lose again, you fall down like a ranking. And then, because there's like the minor circuit, the major circuit, the world circuit.
Right.
And you climb up the rankings as you win to eventually fight the champions, right?
Yeah.
And so if you lose against like the number 1 ranked guy, you get a rematch. If you lose again, you fall to the number 2 ranked guy.
Right.
And I think you get 3 losses. Like I've had a couple game overs. I don't know how many times I lost, but you fall down one, you have to climb back up type thing. Which is cool too. Like I like that, you know? I just...
It's an interesting way of, as opposed to so many games that would just force you to restart the whole game.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I mean, the only time you really have to start over is when you get, when you get the game over, and in vintage classic mid 1980s gaming, there's passwords. To skip ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, that there was some way of doing that.
Yeah, like there's no save points in this one. It just, you can put in a password basically to go back to the beginning of whatever circuit you were on.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because like minor circuit is fun, but like honestly, I hadn't played the game in years and beat minor circuit on my first try the other day. Like I didn't even lose a fight. It's just a matter of you just be like, oh yeah, okay, I remember what to do. It's kind of muscle memory, right? It's by the time you get to the world circuit that shit starts to get serious.
And it
gets really serious, like really fast.
Who's your favorite guy to fight?
King Hippo.
Oh yeah.
It has to be. Yeah,
dropping the shorts and you hit him in the belly button.
And I think of King Hippo from like Captain N. Yeah, did you ever watch Captain N?
Oh no, I didn't. But I know like he's one of the features.
He was one of the bad guys on that show, and like I just love him. Like he's the big fat guy, and the whole thing is like. The first time I fought him a couple of days ago, I was like, how the fuck do I hit him? Because you can't hit him in the stomach. And when you try to hit him when you try to hit him in the face, he blocks it. Yeah. And I was running out of the hearts, and I was like, how the fuck? And this is the thing, is like, I don't want to look anything up, you know?
You want to see if you figure it out on your own,
Yeah, and that was one of the cool things about when this game came out, too, is you couldn't go into YouTube and look up how to beat a guy, right?
You usually had to buy, like, a book.
It was buy a book or team up with your friends and just study. And that was cool, but at the same time, it was frustrating because you'd get to, like, a Soda Popinski or a Super Macho Man where you have to go through 4 or 5 guys to get to them. Yeah. And then if you lose a couple of times, you got to start over the bottom of the circuit, climb your way back up just for another shot at him. Like, there's no way to go into like study game tape or anything. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, King Hippo, I could not figure out what to do. And then one of the cool things that I like in this game this is another thing this one has that Super Punch Out doesn't, is this one has rounds. Yes. It has 3 rounds. Super Punch Out is a 1 round and then it's over.
Oh, okay.
So in the middle of the rounds, Doc is giving you tips sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Like your corner guy. Yeah. And sometimes they're legitimate tips. Yeah. Sometimes they're not. Like sometimes they're like, oh, stick and dive. You know, he's like stupid, like
basic boxing.
Yeah. But like with King Hippo, he's like, hey, shut his big mouth. And then I realized that every time he opens his mouth right before he punches, he flashes red as he goes like, and that's when you can punch him in the face.
Yeah.
And it's right before he throws a punch. So you got to be quick.
Yeah.
But if you punch him in the face, that's when his shorts fall down. And then you can tee off on his stomach.
Which is, yeah.
So satisfying, too. It's so and he's one that if you knock him down once, you knock him out.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying when you finally realize, like, oh, that's how I hit this
he's
guy.
got like one of the best defenses. Otherwise, like you can't. He blocks everything aside from that one.
You have to hit him in the mouth first, and then you can tee off on his stomach. So, what about you? Do you have a favorite guy?
I was going to say King Hippo too. I think it's because it's just like such a dynamic. Oh, it's just it's a little puzzle. It's got a lot of character in it. Like it kind of takes all of the best parts of that game and in one fight.
And even in a game where like we've already sat here and hyped up how they all look so unique and they all individual, like he still stands out. Like the rest of them, except for maybe Glass Joe, are still these like jacked up. Like big guy. Whereas
this guy looks like an evil butterbean.
Yeah, he's just a massive like big fat guy. You know what I mean? Like, and he's got the band-aids on his belly button.
Yeah.
Like he's really funny. I like him. And I won't lie to you, I love Glass Joe. Like I have such a soft spot for Glass Joe.
Yeah, I think so because
he's almost like the Goomba of Punch Out. You know what I mean? Like he's such an iconic loser. Like he's I don't know. They brought him back for the Wii Punch Out, and it was awesome.
I think you have to. Yeah. Because everybody who plays that game, you see him. Like you have to fight him. There's not like.
He's the best. I love Glass Joe. And you know what other thing is really cool in this is it's such a stupid little thing, and after you've seen them once, like the novelty starts to disappear, but the montages.
Oh yeah,
like
like running and the docks on the bike or whatever.
So stupid, but like mark my words, if you haven't already, I'm positive by the time you've heard this, I have put that training montage music into at least one of the two songs that I had to put into this.
Yeah.
But like it's awesome, and Mac is wearing like the sweatpants, like the Rocky style sweatpants, and he's running through New York and stuff. It's awesome. Like. Yeah. It hits the point where you're like, okay, I've seen it. Like, can we skip this now? Like, I want to go to the next fight. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. It's storytelling, and it's a Nintendo version of storytelling, right? Like, it's the Punch Out version of the Pac-Man videos where he's like running from the ghosts and then running back after the ghost. Right. It's all you could do back in those days, right? And you didn't even need it. It's Punch Out. It's boxing. You don't need a storyline. The storyline is you want to become the best boxer. You want to become the world champion. Yeah. And I just like, I don't know, man. This, you know what this game oozes? I know I'm talking really fast. I just really love this game. You shut up, Molly. I'm my dog. I love, this game screams the Nintendo shine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's one of the best looking games on the system, and it works well. Like there's no glitches.
There's no glitches.
Yeah, like it works.
That's the thing about this game to me that really stands out. There's so many NES games that you fucking lose at, and then you get mad because it's either a glitch or it's cheap. Yeah. Like they just throw so many bad guys at you and stuff like that. There's no such thing as a cheap loss in this game, you know?
Well, and that's, it's interesting because I was telling you before, but this is made by R&D3. It's like a special group in Nintendo that like they only made a handful of games just for the original system. Like the guy who is behind it still works in Nintendo now. He's kind of like, and he works on hardware, so that kind of makes sense. There's like no, if he's working on hardware, there's probably not going to be any glitches. Like, 'cause he knows it in and out. Yeah. I think there's a good reason why you can go back and play it now and not feel frustrated.
Not at all.
By like sloppy mechanics or
no, and it's like, and you get like, there's a couple of fights that like I would lose and I was so fucking mad. Like Don Flamenco. Yeah. Is it him? No, it's not him. Who is it? I have the list of them right here in front of me. Oh, it's Great Tiger. The Indian boxer that knows how to teleport is what they call him, and he wears like a turban or whatever. It's called.
Like it's out of all of the stereotypes, maybe the worst one.
Maybe the worst one. But like, and basically, honestly, like half the time, what you're looking for a tell in him before he punches is that the little jewel flashes on front of his thing. But he does this move where he can like disappear, and he like disappears back to the middle of the ring. And it's like a spirit of him, and then he starts swinging around in circles. Yeah. And he fucking was working me with it, and I could not figure out how to dodge it. And I was getting so mad. And then finally I realized that it was just like block, 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 block. And if you do block 5 times, he's out of gas, and then he stands there huffing and puffing, and then you can one punch knock him out. Yeah. And it's not cheap. The first time he beat me, I was calling it cheap. I was like, what the fuck is that? But then you
Using
realize,
magic and all
Yeah.
that's got to be illegal.
I'm like, I have 3 punches and you can fucking do that. But then you realize that it's not cheap. You just, it's perfect. You just have to study it and you figure out his weakness and then it's totally beatable. You know what I mean?
It's a unique, well, and that's what every single one of them was. It's just finding their pattern and like, it's that style of video gameplay of you're solving a puzzle.
Yeah,
it's just a different style.
Yeah, like because the thing is like there are certain games, even up to today, where like a platformer or what have you, where sometimes the only way to learn is to just die, and then you're like, oh, okay, next time I know not to do that. Do you know what I mean? And that I do feel is cheap, and this is like that, but there's something about this where it doesn't feel that cheap. You don't have like you do have to lose to learn, kind of. But it doesn't feel as frustrating and cheap as like a game where there's just like, oh, there was a fucking hole there and I didn't know there was a hole there and I fell.
Oh, yeah,
do you know what I'm trying to say? Like stuff like that.
There are other games that are definitely, just know not to go in there. Like I'm thinking of even the Super Mario Lost Levels. There's some like where you go down the wrong pipe and like, oh, that's just a death pipe, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. And the only way to know is to do it, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because Punch-Out is kind of that. The only way to learn sometimes is to get your ass kicked.
But you don't die immediately. Like, even if you do get hit by one of those punches, you might take a big old hit, but then it's like, okay, I got to keep on my guard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true too. There was a couple of fights playing it last night where I got like blatantly saved by the bell.
Yeah.
Like I was in a lot of trouble and then the bell would fucking, and I'm like praying for that. Like, I guess I can see I have like no health left.
Yeah.
And I've already been knocked down twice in this round and I'm just praying like, fuck, ring. And when that bell rings, then you can mash buttons once and have Doc kind of massage your shoulders and you get some health back.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Just once you can just mash buttons.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it works every round. I think you can only do it one time.
Okay.
But you're like, oh God, please. Like, like, you know what I mean?
I need some of that help.
Whereas playing Super Punch-Out as much as I have, it's one round.
Yeah.
So like if you're in trouble, you are in trouble. Yeah. And it's like I love the stamina. I love the rounds. There's a lot of legitimate strategy to this game, you know? And then the one thing we haven't talked about yet is the knockout punches. The star punches.
Oh, the star punches, yeah.
Right? And like there's 2 things that I think are clever about that. And the first is when you get one, you feel like you snuck one in because you basically have to counter punch at just the right time. A lot of the guys to get those.
Yes,
and it's a really good feeling when you like sneak in that punch and see that little star.
Yeah, because
now in your head you're like, oh yeah, because you're just ready to tee off on the guy, right? Yeah. And then the second thing I think is cool is that they had the I don't know what the word is. I'll say the foresight, the ingenuity to assign that to the start button. As opposed to just having it, because A and B are just your 2 arms. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was playing it the other day, and I couldn't remember how to throw it. And then I was like, well, it's got to be start or select, because it's not A or B, right? Yeah. And it's just like, it may seem like such a stupid, trivial thing to someone today, where controllers have like 12 buttons, and you put all these combos in and everything, right? But like Nintendo had 2 buttons, and then start and select.
So what was pause? Was there a pause?
There wasn't pause. If you're in a round, you can't pause.
Oh, boy.
Which I actually like, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Know? I mean, it sucks like, when my stupid dog is praying to go outside and I'm like, you gotta wait a minute, but like it's intense because you get through that 3 minutes and then as long as you don't push start, it's pause between rounds.
Oh, okay.
And that's almost another boxing simulation thing where it gets to the in between rounds and you're like, okay, I need a drink of water, like this is intense. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. You don't see Mike Tyson just like, can we just stop for a little bit? I just need to eat.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta take a call from my grandma.
Yeah. It's I love it. Like there's so many little strategic nuances to this game, you know. And then if it goes 3 rounds, then it goes to the judge's decision. Yeah. Which I haven't had one happen since I started playing again. I've lost or won well before that.
I can't see it getting that far because like they got such powerful punches.
That's it. Is like, honestly, I don't know if Glass Joe has ever punched me, but even after Glass Joe, the second guy, I had it on my phone, Von Kaiser. Yeah. An ex-military officer from Germany. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's not too many.
Wow. Yeah. But even him, like even the second guy, if he lands a punch, he makes it count. You know what I mean? Like you're right. Near the end, like with Soda.
It's either you figured out his pattern. Yeah. And then you beat him, or he's just got you.
Yeah.
Like you haven't figured it out.
No.
You know, like that's the difference.
And
You're
that's
not-
yeah. It's pretty rare that you have like a solid 3-round back and forth fight. You know what I mean? Either you know what to do and you beat him, or you try to figure out what to do while he beats you into the ground. Like,
Yeah, because they got a static AI, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not learning your thing; they're just like continuing to run their one pattern,
Right. And one of the other cool things too is like some of them have like what would you call it? Like a weak spot, say like a one punch. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of them, like Bald Bull.
If you can figure out their like special maneuver and like their one counter,
Yeah, and it literally like it feels like you have a frame to throw that punch. Like you have no, and like the thing about it is like with Bald Bull, for example, he backs up to the top of the ring and then he charges at you. And if you punch him in the gut, right, as he gets to you, you knock him down.
Yeah.
And I think you knock him out, but I'm not 100. It doesn't matter. You knock him down, but you literally have like a half second. And you're
it's
stuck.
so intimidating.
It is, right? Because you're like, well, I can just dodge, and you can just dodge it,
Yeah.
and keep fighting him. But you want that knockout punch.
Yeah.
But if you don't land it, he knocks you down, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like it's a one punch for him, and I think that's really cool too. Like I like how you can play chicken, or like, do you want to go aggressive, or do you want to play it safe and just dodge? You know what I mean? Like Floyd Mayweather was, because he's kind of a pussy. Anyway, this isn't a boxing. Podcast.
I love how earlier you're just like, he's one of the greatest of all time.
He is. He is. It doesn't mean he's not a pussy. He just like anyone listening to this that really likes boxing is like, yeah, Floyd is one of the greatest of all time, but he didn't let anyone touch him. That's how he wins. Nobody can touch him. So, what a great game, man. I same as you. I never owned it as a kid, but I had friends that owned it, and I was so excited to go play. It was the game I was excited to go play every time.
I can recall the music right now as I was like, as you were talking about the interstitial. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, it goes like that. So, it's good memories coming from that game.
It really is, and
I can see myself sitting down and playing that one again.
Yeah. It like I've had so much fun the last couple of days playing. Like I've got all these games on my Switch that I'm trying to play through right now, and I'm like, yeah, but I kind of just want to play Punch Out some more. Like it's just like the game is I had the release date here, brought it right in front of me, 1987. So 30 years.
Well, and I feel you could beat that. Like if you can actually make your way through, it's like an hour at most to play that game. Yeah,
totally. And I was thinking that myself as I was playing it for the first time the other day. I didn't lose for about 6 boxers. It was I got to the major champion, I think, before I lost. It was pretty close. And I was thinking that I was like, fuck, can you imagine paying like $80 for whatever it was in like the 80s for this game and then beating it in an hour? And then I got to the really hard guys that would like, murder me.
No, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, you get your money's worth in this game. Because that's one of the things too, is like there's no depth. Like there's lots of depth in the gameplay.
Yeah.
But it's new or continue, and you literally just jump into wherever you were in the ladder of boxers.
Yeah.
And you fight to the end. Like, there's no time trial mode. There's no career mode per se. There's nothing like that. So the difficulty is what gives it replayability. You know what I mean? It's like, and honestly, it's one of those weird games where the difficult, and I like hard games, but I know a lot of people get frustrated with them and stuff. It's one of those games where the difficulty is the charm.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be a fun game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it's why like if you could say you beat Punch Out, like, oh wow, like I know that's a tough game, and I know, like it's got that kind of notoriety around it. Yeah,
it's really an iconic game. Like it really, like, it doesn't matter if you put Mike Tyson on it or not. It really is iconic, and it really is. It stood the test of time. The gameplay is so sharp. It's fun. Like it just is fun. It's so much fun to just turn. Like when that NES Classic came out, it was easily in like the 5 games on it that I was most excited to play again. Like, it was Mike. Well, it's not Mike Tyson's Mr. Joe, but Punch Out. You know what I mean? Like it just, as well as the Mario games, has it stood the test of time? You know what I mean? Like it literally is as playable today as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, precisely. Especially if it's an arcade. Like I know that they've made newer boxing games. The EA series. I don't even know what they're called. What was it? Fight Night?
That's the Fight
Night.
Yeah.
That it's like, well, and those are all fine. Those are all simulations.
Yeah.
But as an arcadey kind of just a fun style of game, just jump in and play. that's why that stands the test of time. You can play it today.
Totally.
Because it's just, you don't need, boxing doesn't need to be that fancy to be fun.
No.
As a game.
No, it doesn't. And and I can't remember if EA is actually Fight Night or Knockout Kings. Doesn't matter.
I think it's Fight Night. No, now that you say it.
And dude, I remember playing, I like those games, but they're very simulation-y, very strategic.
Yeah. And that's fine.
Totally. It's the same as Madden today. It's the same as the NHL games today.
But give me Tecmo's Super Bowl.
Exactly, right? Give me ice hockey and Blades of Steel. Give me, there's something about, dude, if there's one thing the NES did well, and I know there were a lot of bad ones too, but sports games did well on the NES. If they just figured out how to translate the basic mechanics of whatever sport you wanted to play into the video game, they were so much fun.
Yeah.
They just were and Punch Out is only one player too. To me, when you played one of the hockey games or Tecmo or whatever, part of the fun was playing it against one of your buddies, right?
Yeah.
Punch Out, you can't play against one of your buddies, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You almost all want to work together to try to figure out how to beat some of these fucking guys.
Well, and that's the beauty of short rounds.
Yeah.
The games are very short.
Yeah.
Whereas, a hockey game, depending on what setting you put it on, that's going to be 20 minutes.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's very good that you have multiplayer in that. In Punch Out, it goes by so quickly it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I forgot that Mario is in Punch Out.
Oh yeah,
I forgot that he was the referee.
Oh yeah, that was that. It's one of the first games for Nintendo, right? It's in that era of I think around Super Mario Lost Levels was produced in that region. So early on, before they had rules on how you can use Mario,
yeah,
it was sure.
Yeah, you can throw him in there, sure, why not? It seemed like such a silly little cameo because they don't advertise it.
No,
you know what I mean? He's on the box art, they show a referee behind the boxers, and it's not Mario. And then you turn it on, and it's there's Mario. That's fucking cool.
Because why not? Yeah,
why not? He's a mascot, right? It's just. Seems so crazy now. I don't remember. I didn't really play the Wii Punch Out that much. I don't think they even showed the referee in it, but Mario wasn't it. No. It would have been cool if they had Mario counting the number, like 1, 2, in that Mario voice. It would have been pretty rad. But it's a good game, man. We have talked about this game for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on Punch Out? Cool...
No, I think. I think if you haven't played it, I'd say that's one to go back and play.
It really is. If there is one...
Because you're saying it's coming out on the Switch soon, yeah?
Well, it hasn't yet, but I'm confident it will.
Especially by the time... Oh, yeah.
Possibly by the time this goes live.
Yeah.
It's, if you don't know, Switch releases 2 or 3 Nintendo games a month on the online. And it's probably the best Nintendo game not available on that service now.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the one I want the most. I think this is a perfect game to play portable. Yeah. You know what I mean? As it's easy to hop in, study a guy,
because it can even go on the
out.
Switch controls.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even need to do anything.
It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
What would you give Punch Out out of 10?
I think for what it is and the kind of stuff, it's got to be 9.5. Just for what it is. That's... It's not complex. You're not going to have a simulation, but if you're just looking to kill an hour, I can see playing Punch Out as an option.
Totally, yeah. I was thinking 9.5, man. It's the KISS method, right? To keep it simple, stupid, and they did keep it simple, and it's so addictive. And then sorry, I'll shut up in a second. You lose, and you're just I want another shot at that guy, because now you're well, now I think I know how to beat him. You know what I mean?
You can learn it. That's the beauty. It's not completely random. It's
totally.
Everything.
Yeah, it is, and it's very. It feels so good to you just get that feel of accomplishment, that sense of accomplishment when you beat someone that's been pounding on you.
Yeah.
I am going to beat Soda Popinski.
Yeah,
and it's going to feel so good when I do. Send him back to rehab.
To take care of that soda pop addiction.
What a racist game. You're so right. Just the stereotypes of the racists and just wow.
They need to address it if they're going to make a new Punch Out.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why it hasn't been released yet, because they're just oh, this is in today's culture, this isn't going to go over that well.
Actually, that may not be. Well, I mean, they put it on the NES Classic though. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, it was, and it's on every other virtual console. It was on the Wii, the 3DS, the Wii U. It's on everything else. So yeah, that's not stopping them. And it's all in good fun. It's not at any point they're just oh, if you're a German, you're a Nazi or whatever. Although they do kind of imply that.
Yeah, they
do. All right. Well, that was good. That was fun. I love this game. Play it, like David said. Play it. don't be stupid. Play this game. Thanks, buddy.
No problem.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode, you guys. David, thank you so much for coming by and talking Punch-Out with me. You guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had as much fun with that one as I did. This is one of probably in the top 10 or 15 games I was excited to talk about when we came up with the concept for this podcast, and it feels so good. I could do like another episode of this game already. I fucking love it so much. If you've never played it, you're crazy. Go get an NES Classic Punch-Out. It's not the Mike Tyson version. That doesn't matter. It's on there. Play it. Just play it. This game is perfect. It is the perfect video game. You guys, thanks for listening. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, throw us a follow, please, at Member the Game. Just like Remember the Game without the RE at the front. Follow everybody back. Check out our website, rememberthegamepodcast.com, and keep listening, keep sharing, keep supporting, and know how much I appreciate that you guys do all that. That's it. I'll shut up. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of this podcast. In the meantime, go play some video games and take it easy, you guys. Thank you very much. Cheers.